Hello and welcome to The Beat, a news and talk program brought to you by the Center for Community Media here at Worcester State University. I'm your host, Alexis Aslanian, and today we'll be interviewing Erin Williams. Thank you for joining us today, Erin.
My pleasure, Alexis.
Will you give us a brief overview of the City of Worcester's Cultural Development Division and your role in it?
Sure. I am the Cultural Development Officer for the City of Worcester, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Worcester Cultural Coalition. And I note that because my role as the Development Officer is to serve a dual function. I'm the Director of the city's Cultural Department, and I'm also the Director of the Cultural Coalition, which represents 88 plus organizations here in the City of Worcester in Central Mass. And our work together with the city is to engage people in the arts, to support arts and creativity into everything the city does, from its streetscape, including public art when we're redoing streets, to arts education, to marketing and telling the story, and of course, supporting our many artists and arts organizations.
Those are two pretty big positions here in the city.
Well, we like to think that art is a key component to city making, creative city making, and I think all of us, when you think back on the past 2 years, arts have been what's lifted many people up in that dark time when you're stuck in your house with your family and or your roommate, and what is it that's kept you going and keeping your sanity? Oftentimes it's been the arts that keeps us grounded and also inspirational.
Of course, it plays a huge role in city development, especially here in Worcester.
That's right.
Could you tell us about the mission of the division and its objectives?
Sure. The mission of the Cultural Coalition is, and the city, is to embed arts into everything that the city does, to spur on economic development, but also to develop social capital. And by social capital, I mean quality of life for a city. And I usually like to reflect on the fact that when you think of a city that you want to go visit, what is it that you are thinking about? Is it the way that the streets are aligned? Maybe, but more, it's about the uniqueness of a city, its arts, its beauty in the way that it's laid out, its walkability when you're visiting, and if you're a resident, that there's something for everyone to have an experience that makes their life fuller.
Thank you. Can you describe some of the initiatives and services of the Cultural Development Division?
Sure. Well, right now we are working with Greater Worcester Community Foundation, and the Community Foundation, working with the city and the Cultural Coalition, have created something I just happen to have in my back pocket right now, and that's our cultural plan. And the evolution of a creative city is all about thinking about arts and creativity when we're thinking about education at Worcester State. What are the programs that are going to bring creativity into the classroom, be it through discussion, be it through a platform that we're on right now, be it performing arts or visual arts? How do we embed that in everything that we do, like Main Street? The city manager, we are a city that's run by a city manager, and the mayor is more of a figurehead, but they work in tandem with each other with the city council. When we came to thinking about how we're going to redo the streets, the city manager understood what we've long been talking about as the creative community, that we need to embed arts into that streetscape design. So if you go down to downtown this week, you're going to see a giant guitar that's built out of old instruments right across from the Palladium. You'll see a lectern that represents all the women who stood up for women's rights. And the first women's rights convention was held right on Main Street. You're going to see a giant monkey wrench next to Mechanics Hall. And people say, why a monkey wrench next to City Hall? My response is, Mechanics Hall. So we also have a giant corset, which is right across from the Hanover Theater, and an homage to the Valentine. The commercial Valentine was created in Worcester. So all of those represent various components of Worcester's history, embedding arts into storytelling and to streetscape design.
These are very significant pieces in our city that probably a lot of people don't even know about.
Well, for the public art component, we just installed them 2 weeks ago.
Everyone's gonna have to go check those out.
You're gonna have to go check those out. You can give a speech, Alexis, right from the left.
I'm gonna have to, thank you. Are there any current or upcoming projects that you can share with us?
Well, we just put in the ground, literally, that public art. We will be doing another call for public art, and not only for permanent installations, but temporary. And we're really looking for young, vibrant creatives to be able to respond to our request for people to solicit projects to us. And all of you and all your crew who are here today and your listeners will be eligible for these grants that we are receiving from funding from the national government. ARPA relief funding, the American Reparations Act, to bring people back up from the money that they've lost. So we will have funds available for people to be doing creative projects of all types, like a video.
How does your department work with the community partners to plan events in Worcester?
Every year we hold a town hall meeting, and that's how this plan was put together. It's actually the first plan in the country that's embedded into the city's master plan. So it's not considered an extra. And when we look at this plan, we think about what's essential for our community, and it's really shifted since COVID. We had 20 top priorities, and now we are paying specifically more attention to serving underserved populations. That's the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color, the LGBTQIA community, and I like to think that we're also supporting people from all walks of life who don't normally have access to funds or the ability to be heard. That's why your work here and sharing stories out is so important. We're welcoming ideas, so we have these town halls every year. You might have seen all these murals that have gone up over the city. We have 162 murals, part of Powwow Worcester, as well as others who kind of stepped up. In 2013, we did a survey of artists in the community, and we said, what do we need to do together? And it was overwhelming, the response. Worcester really needs a facelift. Worcester is ugly downtown. There's empty storefronts. How can we really celebrate the city in some way? So the Cultural Coalition in the city raised some money, and we started putting murals up on the side of the old Denholm building on Main Street, on the back of the Hanover, on the YWCA, and now there's 162 murals by world-class muralists as well as local muralists, and we also teach children in the Worcester Public Schools that they too can be artists.
What is the Worcester Cultural Coalition, and what is its relationship with the city of Worcester?
Well, we talked a little bit about that. This partnership was formed 20 years ago, and it's the only one of this kind in the country where it's a public-private partnership. And what that means is we can be a public entity, government-oriented, as well as being an independent business itself. So it allows us to be nimble in some of the work that we do. And it also gives artists and the creative community a seat at the table when the city's making decisions.
Worcester has recently become a hub for movie production. Could you describe some of the services that you offer to the ongoing productions around the city of Worcester?
Do you mean in Hollywood?
Exactly, Hollywood.
That's exactly right. We've had dozens of films now here in Worcester, and I have to mention one thing. The reason films go to any state is that they get a tax break, and Massachusetts has a great tax break. And the film industry is like a carnival or a circus. They will go where the money is that can support them, and where they have good architecture, and they have a good relationship with the city. So when a filmmaker, it usually is a location scout who will call me up and say, we have X film, And it's always a fake name first, because they're not allowed to give out the real name of the production, nor the director or producer. And they will say, this is the vibe that we're looking for. You know, do you have X, Y, Z kinds of locations? And myself and my counterpart, Edgar Luna, who's in the business assistant's office, Edgar rolls out the red carpet for these folks, and he takes them to all the various locations, and we help to identify the locations, and then it's a long process. Usually the producer will then fly out, or if it's a local producer, we'll again do that kind of tour, a lot of photography work. If the producer and the director like it, they bring out it'll be a whole busload of folks, from the dressers who help to dress the sets, to the costume designers, to the lighting technicians. And by then they figure out who they're going to anoint with their film project. So it usually takes about 6 months to get a film that's a major film, just from the start to the actual production. And then you go into high gear. And film, as you folks might know, if you've ever done any kind of internship or production work, it goes like this. It's hurry up and wait, and then it's changing all the time, all of the components around filmmaking. But now, as I said, we have over 24 films that we've been shot here in Worcester and central Massachusetts.
It's a lot of moving pieces, but all are very important to the city.
They're all very important, and for you and your production crew here, this is the time to get involved with film work if you are interested. They are looking for production staff to enter into the mechanism to build up, to get into IATSE, which is the professional union for techies and production work. So if any of you or your colleagues or students here are interested, I highly recommend that you seek that out.
That's very useful information for our students. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any specific cultural offerings created to attract new visitors to the city?
Well, the murals have become a major attraction. So people come see the murals. As you've probably seen, if you consider baseball a creative sport, the baseball stadium itself has been designed so that over the years it will incorporate more public art. We also have many more festivals that have taken place than they have in the past. And we are working directly with many different campuses, such as yours, to find out what is it that attracts and keeps students here after you graduate. How can we be supportive of helping you to get jobs, internships, and to see Worcester as a creative city that you can actually grow in.
Can you tell us about the 10-year cultural development plan for becoming Worcester, the evolution of a creative city?
Here we go, Vanna White. The plan, as I said, was made. Over 1,000 people participated in creating this plan. We are in the state of revising the 20 top priorities for the first 3 years. It's a 10-year plan, as you mentioned. And the first 3 years were to be focused on a wide variety of issues. And we're really now digging down deep into education, from pre-K all the way up through higher education, such as yourselves. Really looking at underserved communities that haven't been heard or been at the table, or that the city doesn't go to their table. And how do we see arts as an economic driver as well as a social capital driver? And oftentimes we don't think our development offices in the nation don't think about social capital being just as important as that resource of money. And of course, money is important, and our city manager is really committed to a creative economy. So we're seeing a lot more biotech community developing. We're seeing the city manager invest in creative exploration. We just opened a theater right next to City Hall. It's called the Jean McDonough Arts Center, and it has a The Worcester pop-up. Have you heard of the Worcester pop-up?
Yes.
Okay. You could use that space, Alexis, for free. It's state-of-the-art, so we have Worcester State students who are coming there to do capstone projects. We have it from professional artists like Yo-Yo Ma and Silk Road coming and working with immigrant artists and musicians to do jams together. That space, prior to COVID, had over 300 events in less than a year and a half. So we see that as just opening the floodgates for how much creative expression there is in the city. And all people need is an outlet to be able to express it.
What a useful space for everyone's different creativity.
I think so. And we also built a theater because actually Worcester State, and Adam Zoller, who's in the theater department here, Adam just kept pointing out to us Worcester State's theater, the Fuller Theater, it seats what, 150, 160 folks? It's booked all the time. So we need other spaces here in the city too that isn't the big Broadway stage like the Hanover, which is phenomenal, but we need those smaller spaces, private as well as public spaces for people to really express themselves.
It's definitely a great in-between kind of space.
I think so.
What is your favorite part of your position as Cultural Development Officer for the City of Worcester?
To be quite frank, talking to people like you, and I mean that seriously, I feel very jazzed. I was talking to Holly, who's one of your classmates, and Holly was telling me, you know, she's staying here in Worcester. People are choosing to stay in the city, and I've been in this position now almost 18 years, and you weren't hearing people say that in the early 2000s. Worcester has become really, I think, an exciting city to be in, and I feel very proud of it. And I'm even more proud of all the young energy that's emerging around so many different topics.
I can agree, because me, myself, I'm a Worcester born and raised resident, and it's become such a developed city that draws people in and keeps people here.
I think so, and we can do better, you know. I think we're on that trajectory of going to the pinnacle, and it's important that cities that reach a pinnacle don't lose sight of all the people who have been here for generations, and as well as the new people who are moving into the city, because there's room for everyone. And I just learned the other day, there's over 113 languages spoken in the Worcester Public Schools. So we are truly a diverse city.
I agree. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today about either the Cultural Development Division or the Cultural Coalition?
Well, I want to encourage all your listeners to go to worcesterculture.org. It has all the listings. The coalition works together from the small independent film company up to the museums and Worcester State to work collectively together. So if you have an idea for a project or looking for resources, you can go to worcesterculture.org or pop me an email, and I'm always open to new ideas and welcome them.
Thank you so much, Erin. You've been very helpful to me, our staff here today, and all our viewers watching.
Thanks, Alexis.
Thank you for watching this segment of The Beat. Please remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We'll see you next time.